Hello, everyone. It's me, Andy.
And I'm Sean.
And this is the Commander's Brew.
This week, Jodah, Archmage Eternal. Two. Oh, hang on.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to 145 Commander's Brew, episode 145. How's everybody doing? Sean, how are you?
I'm excellent, Andy. I'm loving this spring weather. And yeah.
Spring weather. It's starting to look nice again. We're getting rid of the terrible windstorms that will happen because that just happened to us.
For our listeners who live in a warmer southern climate, Canada has a reputation for like that we all live in igloos and we play hockey on our way to work and all this stuff. But I will say the true thing is it gets real cold here. And it's not I think as a temperature, I can handle it, right? We all own thick coats and gloves and toques. We call them toques. We're fine. We're fine in the temperature. Like, we know how to bundle up. But the thing that is difficult is it just is such an extended period where, like, there gets to a point where you're like, I feel like I have just been in a cocoon of hot clothes for 8 months.
Yeah.
Like, it feels like it's been forever, so that when these spring days arrive, it is truly a rebirth. I feel reborn. I feel like a new person. My attitude on life is totally different.
Spring is my favorite because it's the only time you can go outside with just a light jacket on, but still wear pants and like a sweatshirt. You know what I mean? Like, you don't need to be wearing a big heavy coat and like a toque and all that stuff.
You can wear stylish clothes and like, not sweat a bunch.
Yeah, and like summertime where like, you know, you can't go outside because you're going to, first of all, get like your face burned off, and also like you're just sweating just from walking 5 minutes just to the store or whatever. I hate that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, I like summer. I'll take summer over winter every time, but you know, even in Toronto, like the weather just gets so crazy, it gets so hot. I mean, that's just the changing Earth climate that's happening.
Climate change.
Woof. Yeah, but enough. But hopefully, wherever you are, the weather is nice and it's getting to be more moderate in its temperatures. Yeah, here we are coming hot off of the successful Kickstarter. We haven't sent out a message yet because I wanted to say first here, thank you to everyone who contributed and everyone who helped out. We raised just over $9,000 for Battle of the Brews.
Almost like 183% of our goal was met.
Almost double what we aimed for, which is amazing. We didn't quite get to the token thing that we wanted to get to, but that's all right. We'll still down the road be, you know, commissioning our boy Matt Strott to design a few more tokens for us. So that's definitely still coming down the pike.
Yes. Here's how I see it, right? If we made our 5,000, which we did in one day, thank you so much. Just beaming, then the show would get made. And then as the show goes, we improve it over time, right? We make little upgrades here or there. All this did was fast forward that a bunch of times, so we're already like better and more advanced to begin with. And those tokens will happen eventually. It'll just take a little bit. Yeah,
exactly. So thank you again to everyone who came in and people who came in and watched the stream.
Yeah.
On Kickstarter, that was lots of fun.
It is fun to have the questions appear and you can put them on the screen like that. I wish Twitch did that. Sort of, where you could put the questions up there.
Yeah, there's like a little different Q&A function on the Kickstarter like streaming platform that people submit questions and then you can post them kind of on the video, and then anyways, it was fun. Good time.
GT. Want to thank everybody. We also got to thank some very important people. So the Commander's Brew podcast is going strong and will continue to do so thanks to our patrons, patreon.com, hanging out in that Discord, other perks. We also want to thank Ultimate Gourd for sleeves and boxes.
Oh my God, I wish we could thank Ultimate Gourd.
Ultimate Gourd. Sometimes I say those things and I'm like, I felt my mouth do something weird. I'm like, did it sound different or did I just feel different from my end? So thank you for confirming it sounded different. Ultimate gourd, all your pumpkins and squashes.
Yeah, taking care of that for you. Well, ultimate
Best
gourd,
pumpkins.
your dad's cool, your dad's friend at work.
Ultimate gourd, yeah. Ultimate gird, which is that other name for heartburn.
GERD?
GERD. It stands for something if you have GERD.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. It's
I've never heard that before.
Gastroesophageal reflux disorder, I think.
Whoa, GERD.
Yeah.
What a gross name.
I mean,
GERD.
it's a gross thing.
Yeah, it sounds like your insides are going like GERD.
It's a very accurate name then.
Yeah,
it's a very good name.
Don't like it.
So thanks to those, gang. And, of course, thank you to the Wizard Tower, wizardtower.com. Let us hear an ad from them now.
Oh, it is I, a tragic poet from Dominaria. My poetry is so tragic it makes people so sad. Do you remember that saga of how Benalia was new? How I made it so tragic? Well, when I die, you can bring it back from the graveyard and cast it again. Or just like a cool enchantment. How is that I get how sagas are poetry, and that's a flavor win. But I don't get how other enchantments are poems. So, like, I guess that's a flavor fail. What a tragic way to look at a good card. I'm a terrible card. So tragic. Oh, and when I order cards, though, this makes me feel better. I order from the Wizard's Tower, wizardtower.com. I get 5% off my order because I use coupon code I love Brews for the month of May. And then, if I get them shipped to Canada, I get it shipped for free if I spend $15 or more. I rarely spend $15 at anything because I'm so tragic. Oh, I also get 3% kickback for my next order. Oh, the humanity.
Okay.
Yes, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, relax, buddy.
I mean, take it easy, man. Like, you don't need to be doing all that.
I mean, a little bit over dramatic, I think.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. Being a bit too much about the whole thing.
I mean, I know he's a tragic poet, so that's kind of his deal, but like, tone it down a bit.
I mean, look, no one's running you in any decks. I get it.
Yeah, I get it. I get it.
But
too.
like, you know, it's because there's no real need to. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, we're into Dominaria here these days right now. We're into the limited environment. It's a very fun draft set. We're into the commanders of Dominaria. There's a lot of great legendary creatures coming out of this set, and this episode is no different.
I didn't do the math, but it occurred to me, is there enough weeks in the release of Dominaria to do a new legendary every week?
Probably. If you count all the monocolored ones, definitely, I'd say.
Interesting. Anyway, will we do that? Probably not. But anyway, yeah, so we did Jodah this week. I put together a Jodah brew. Jodah is the 5-color one with that sneaky trick where there's 5 mana symbols in the activated ability section, or I guess this is just another ability, but the actual casting cost is not 5 colors. But for commander purposes, the color identity is 5 colors, which means this is a 5-color commander. And it is currently about a gumball, so it's pretty cheap. Here's what Jodah does. Jodah, Archmage Eternal, 1 blue, red, white, legendary human wizard with flying. It's 4/3. You may pay Wooburg, white, blue, black, red, green, rather than pay the mana cost for spells that you cast. So this is a commander with a way to cheat on mana, with a way to sneak spells out for cheaper than we ought to be able to pay for them. Of course, we're going to try to abuse this. A couple of rules things I want to point out. It says it doesn't indicate from your hand or from your graveyard or from anywhere. A lot of spells like this sometimes specify regions. The Jodah don't care. If you're casting a spell and you have Jodah, you can pay that. So anything with flashback, you can also pay that. I think. Now that I'm saying it, does flashback count as an alternate cost?
I don't know.
I gotta look that up. I'm looking that up. But I also know, so it comes up with kicker though, because there is kicker in this set. Kicker is an additional cost, and you are allowed to add additional costs to things if you've paid another way. So if something had kicker, you could pay 5 and then also pay the kicker to get the kicker benefit from it.
Oh, okay. But you would need to pay the 5 Wooburg first.
Yes. So if that makes you save mana, but you don't get the kicker for free. That's an important distinction.
Right.
Fuse cards, those ones that are like 2-sided, they're like the split cards from Dragon's Maze that you could pay for both. The fuse ability is an additional cost, so you can Jodah the more expensive side and then pay the cheap side if you wanted to do that. That turns out to be there's not really any cards that's worth it, so I didn't run any of those. I'm going to look up Jodah with flashback.
Also, is it Archmage or Archmage?
Oh, what did I say?
No, I this is a legit question. I'm not asking because I think it's one or the other. I honestly don't know. I feel like it's I want to say Archmage, but like because like but then it's arch enemy, right? So maybe it is Archmage. I'm trying to think if there are any other examples where it is
Archmage. I don't know. Archangel.
Yeah, Archangel. Yeah. It's not Archangel, right? Archmage.
Yeah, but I think I've heard Archangel.
Oh, but I know, but I think that's someone pronouncing it wrong.
Oh boy.
But like you said, it's or like I said rather, it's archenemy though. It's not archenemy. It's weird.
Yeah, I mean, just because one word works a way doesn't mean similar words work that way. English is weird that way.
It's true.
P.S. Flashback is an alternative cost. You cannot do this with flashback, so you don't get to flash things back this way.
Okay.
But we'll see in this episode. I will cover a card where you do get to sneak Jodah's ability. Okay. Good. That is covered. So another angle I've decided to go with this. Why did I do this? I can't fully explain why. I don't have a good reason, but I decided to go basically all non-basics and almost no mana rocks. So just the basics. 5-color deck, no mana rocks. That sounds very weird. No non-basic, that's very weird. I think one of the reasons is I just didn't feel like putting together a 5-color mana base. Like looking for all those cards, I was just like, so what we did, we just slammed a ton of green and we put most of our fixing in green and we put a lot of it in there, a lot of colorless fixing. We'll get to that in a second. But I also did do, the only non-basics we run are the ones that sacrifice themselves to find basics. The panoramas and evolving wilds, etc.
Oh, you said, oh, okay. You see, you confused me. You said that there's, you said something about like they're only being non-basics.
Oh.
That's what you said at first. And I was like, oh, interesting. Okay. I wonder how you're going to work that in with the budget.
Oh, wow.
But you meant there's only basics.
Only basics. So
right.
It really saves on the budget.
Yes,
because like
absolutely.
those cards do add up. Like, you know, a quarter. Some of those bounce lands are like almost $1. But yeah. So okay. Tricky. I did a bunch of test games with it, and it's surprisingly consistent. Sometimes you're like, oh, I can't do anything. But it works a lot. And I'll say this, it is very convenient to see your mana. You can lump your mana into be like, I'll put one set of Wooburg over here, and that's one Jodah spell. Like, it's easy to look at it that way, too.
Yeah.
But it's heavy forest. Here's how we do the lands. We have 7 instants and sorceries that are green, including Grow from the Ashes, which is 2 and a green for a sorcery with kicker 2. So this is the one from Dominaria. Search your library for a basic, put it onto the battlefield untapped, and if you pay the 5, aka kick it, you get those 2 untapped. Not a bad deal.
No, I like the spell a lot, and I think because the lands come in untapped that this is like definitely worthy of being played in Commander, I think.
Yeah, if your deck wants to do a lot of stuff at end step on other people's end step, then this is maybe better than Explosive Vegetation. I mean, you pay another mana for it, but you have 2 mana up at the end of it, whereas with Explosive Vegetation, you would only have the 1 up.
Yeah, right. Like it only is better if you can do something with those untapped lands.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's better to pay less for that ability. So you'll get into spots where obviously you can't do anything with that extra, the extra 2 lands you have up from the kicker. In which case, oh well, you overpaid by 1. But like, I'm willing to take it because of that. There's that upside to it that you might be able to take advantage of once in a while. It might actually be relevant.
And it's technically a modal spell, so like that's always a plus.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. And we do have some creatures as well. We have 4 creatures that are also green. Andy, do you want to cover this one?
Fertilid. 2 and a green for a 0/0 elemental, although it looks like a bug to me. But yeah. Fertilid enters the battlefield with 2+1/+1 counters on it. You pay 1 and a green to remove a counter, and then target player searches his or her library for a basic land card and puts it on the battlefield tapped. It's just a fun little interaction in that it is target player.
Yeah.
So for some reason, if you ever wanted one of your opponents to find a basic land, you can do that. But obviously, this is mostly targeting yourself.
If you decide to if you decide to play Star or not Star, was it Secret Partners or like anything like that? It's just a powerful political move. It's just like, I will give you a basic if on the battlefield if you do something for me. It's like that's a very good offer. I will probably take you up on that.
Yeah, I feel like this will come out they should, because of that, in the battle box, or whatever. Not battle box. What's it called? Battleborn. The 2-headed giant thing that's coming up.
Yes. Oh boy.
Fertilid should be in that for sure.
Should. Great. We also run 5 artifacts that tutor up a basic. Most of them cost 1 CMC. Just PS, I'll just say 7 of these total spells cost 1 CMC. Some of them green, some of them colorless. The one I want to highlight is Renegade Map. 1 generic for an artifact. Enters battlefield tapped. Tap, sacrifice Renegade Map, search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. So it enters the battlefield tapped, so you don't get to do this right away, but all of these other effects that come on a 1 mana spell that's an artifact make you pay more. So like Traveler's Amulet, you have to pay the 1 to crack it. Whereas Renegade Map, you don't have to pay anything. So you get this slight percentage edge of waiting till after your draw step to see if you drew a missing color and then crack this for another missing color. Yeah. It is, we've got lots of redundancy here. So again, it's pretty consistent in how it runs. But sometimes you're like, okay, so I'll tutor up a mountain, and then you draw a mountain and you're like,
I always have that with Evolving Wilds. It's like, oh man, okay, I need my 3rd color, but or I need one of the or 2 or colors or whatever. It's a 4-color deck, whatever. It's like, well, what if I draw the swamp I need and I went and got the swamp then I can't crack this for a mountain. It's like, that's actually one of the big upsides for Renegade Map. That's really cool.
Yeah. And we have a single artifact creature that tutors up lands. He's a classic. You want to take it, Andy?
I love him. It's Bernie, Burnished Heart.
Yeah.
You know him as he's the 3 mana 2/2 that you can pay 3 and you get to sack him and then throw 2 basics out onto the field tapped.
Yeah. So that's sort of our package there. In total, what's that? 7, 11, 16. That's 17 cards that are super cheap that tutor up lands. Very consistent, right? We're going to get an island first, just because of the way there's draw spells in here that we're going to want to draw with those islands, because that helps us get more lands. Then we're going to get a mountain or plains, depending on what's in your hand, because once we have those 4 colors, Jeskai plus a green, then we cast Jodah, and then we're just looking for that swamp at the end, and then we can start going off with Jodah. So once we have all that going, what do? We cast huge spells. This has been an interesting brew, Andy, because we have access to every spell in the game. Jodah can cast anything for 5 mana. So I spent a lot of the energy working on getting consistent in that regard. But once we're here, it's like, what do we cast? Anything you want. So this is a very flexible section. So I just kind of ran down, started with all the ones that seemed interesting and started narrowing down the most useful ones. One that I want to highlight that I've never seen in a Commander game for real before is Curse of the Cabal. 9 and a black for a sorcery. Target player sacrifices half the permanents he or she controls rounded down. And you can suspend it too. for 2, which is 2 black black. And at the beginning of each player's upkeep, if Curse of the Cabal is suspended, that player may sacrifice a permanent. If he or she does, put 2 time counters on Curse of the Cabal. So someone who is running a bunch of tokens, can like sack dumb things to kind of basically keep this from ever resolving, if they want.
It is not true that you've never seen this in a real Commander game.
Is that not true? When did I see it?
It's not true. It was either Ben or Nick, I can't remember, but they used to run this card. And I remember them having it out and us being like, this isn't a problem. Like, we can always just sack a permanent. It's no big deal.
Well, that was long enough ago that I do not recall.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. It definitely was a long time ago, for sure.
At least a couple of years, right?
Oh,
At
yeah,
least a
easily.
year. Anyway,
Yep.
We're not going to suspend this. We're just going to cast it for 5 instead of 10. And we're going to make target players sack half their permanents. That's fun. I want to do that.
That is so mean.
Yeah, it's pretty mean.
It's
What
like
else?
it's not even equal across all players. It's like or even all opponents. It's like one. You're gonna make a big enemy with this card. Like
Right.
You pay 5 for this. You're putting a target on your back from that player for sure for the rest of the game.
Yeah, so you kind of have to almost say like, okay, you kind of like don't target a blue player because you don't want to risk them countering it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fine. You've only spent 5 mana on it. It's not like you spent 10. So it's not the worst, but like,
sure.
You can don't cast a blue player. But I think the move here is you tap your 5 mana, you put this card on the table, and you be like, I am putting Curse of the Cabal on the stack. Who is the, like, let's decide together who gets it. And then you got to kind of get to put your enemies against each other.
That's an interesting way to do it. I still think, and I know you would feel this way too, that if someone did that and then they ultimately decided to target you, you wouldn't let them get away with blaming the opponents for the decision making, right?
I would certainly I think this is part of my commander personality, right? I've been thinking a lot more of how I approach the game because Battle of the Brews is on the horizon. And I think, yes, whoever I pick with this is like, well, I'm just going to take on you. Like, you're my number one enemy no matter what. So that was kind of a moot issue. But I enjoy the chaos it creates while everyone's fighting about it. And I like to sit back kind of like and just be like, yes. I do like all that.
Yeah. Sweet.
Great. So I'm going to try to resolve one of these on Battle of the Brews sometime. It's going to be great.
Amazing. Next is Clone Legion. This is a nice, big, flashy spell. 7 blue for a sorcery that says for each creature target player controls, create a token that's a copy of that creature. It is a Clone Legion. You simply clone their entire board of creatures.
Yeah.
This has big implications, obviously, with Enter the Battlefield abilities and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, Clone Legion. This is a great card. This is a built for Commander card for sure.
For sure. And this is one of our win conditions, right? If an enemy has like a gigantic board, it is not uncommon to get Jodah to 10 lands, and you can engineer them. You can select your lands most of the time, so you'll have like 2 sets of 5. So you can double spell in a turn. So, Clone Legion and then Curse of the Cabal the person you clone legioned, so like they lose half of their things. And
Ooh.
do they lose like the stuff you just stole from them or whatever? I don't know.
That's, again, too much, too mean.
Much. Too much too mean. TM.
Yeah. Curse of the Cabal them and then Clone Legion, or Clone Legion them and then Curse of the Cabal them. That's nuts.
Andy, I got worse sequences involving Curse of the Cabal. Just wait.
Ooh, okay.
I think
all
this
right.
deck is very mean. Next up is Azuri's Predation. This is an excellent spell in any green deck. 5 green, or in our case, just 5. Sorcery. For each creature your opponents control, all opponents, put a 4/4 green beast token creature onto the battlefield. Each of those beasts fights a different one of those creatures. So any creature with 4 toughness is just dead. Any creature with less than 4 power gives you a beast.
We don't talk about this card very much on the show, and we kind of should, because it's a budget card. It's a very good budget card, and it's one of the only pseudo board wipes that green has. So like I'm
Pseudo
actually
board wipes, but also like I mean, this deck doesn't run it, but like, are you already running Garrick's Pack Leader? Are you already running something that benefits you when a creature power 3 or more? Even if these beasts immediately die, like one of them comes down and tussles with an Eldrazi, you still get that enter the battlefield trigger.
Yeah,
if you care about that, this is a good card.
If you're running, if you're running the Garrick's Pack Leader or
Trostani,
or what's the other one? What's the one? It's the enchantment version of
Garrick's
Pack Leader.
It's a 3-minute.
Where it's not a May. It's you have to draw the card.
Well, that one gets tricky.
It gets tricky, but it's still a very good card. And like Azuri's Predation is going to draw you tons of cards off of that. So
yeah,
this is I don't know. This is a card that we don't for some reason doesn't come up all that often. But I actually really really like this card in Commander. I think it's great.
and since it's base green, this is one of the easier cards for us to cast without Jodah's help because. We always will have a lot of green. Sometimes the triple black and triple red ones that we'll talk about, those get trickier for sure, but always still doable.
Cool. Okay. Here's another one. Another big, huge sorcery, Din of the Fire Herd. I've never seen this card before.
Me neither. Could have been a surprise and discovery. I want to spoil it here.
5 and then 3 hybrid Rakdos. So 8 altogether. Sorcery, put a 5/5 black and red elemental creature token into play. Target opponent sacrifices a creature for each black creature you control, then sacrifices a land for each red creature you control. Oof.
So we're going to get them to sacrifice at least a creature and a land. If Jodah's out, that's another land. Jodah is red. But I would just like to remind us, we are running things like Clone Legion, so like we might have tons of red or black creatures. So this could be a very ugly spell for our opponents.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Again, you're going to pick an opponent for it. Also, because it's hybrid, it makes it a little nicer to cast without Jodah also, right?
Yes.
Because we will be able to come up with red and green together. I mean, red and black.
Red and black together, yeah. Yes. Yeah, the hybrid mana is easier than regular mana.
Yeah,
right?
That's just fact.
That's just fact. That's just the way it works.
It
is an easier way to cast things, so that's nice.
Great.
But Din of the Fire Herd, I wonder how often you do get a lot of black or red creatures out there. It's interesting.
Well, let's talk about Army of the Damned. 5 black for a sorcery where we create 13 tapped 2/2 black zombie creature tokens. This is one of the main reasons I had to look up flashback, because it flashes back for 7 black, but Jodah does not get to flashback also for 5, unfortunately. Right. But if you're going to do 2 spells in a turn, you're going to do Army of the Damned and Din of the Fire Herd. I'm pretty sure you can wipe one person's board. They will have to sacrifice 13 creatures.
14.
14?
Yep.
Oh, because of the Din's creature too. Yes.
Out there.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Army of the Damned, always a powerful spell. Slight bummer that they come in tapped, obviously, but like, but it's still just people have to board wipe after this, right? Like, they can rarely just let this sit there and not do anything about it. Great. And finally, we have one from a couple episodes ago. We were talking about Archetype of Endurance. It's the 6 green 6/5 that says creatures you control have hexproof, and creatures your opponents control lose hexproof and can't have or gain it. That is, I mean, whatever. This is a very expensive creature that has a very powerful ability, and that's right at home in Jodah. You don't have to be paying this 8 mana for this guy. You just pay 5. And now guess what? Your whole board's protected from spot removal.
Right. Excellent card. So that's just a small taste of the huge spells. If you build your Jodah deck, obviously you brew whatever super big cards you want. We're not going to go, like in the out of budget section, I could list tons of like 11 mana cards that are like instant win type of things. We're not going to go into your expropriates and your omnisciences and stuff because they're just out of budget. But like obviously those are easy first targets for Jodah. We've got to get creative on the Commander's Brew. So let's talk about some more utility spells. Here's some spells that just make the deck a little bit stronger in general. This card could have been one of the 3 stars, no problem. Increasing Vengeance. It's red, copy target instant or sorcery spell you control. and if it's cast from the graveyard, you copy it twice, and it flashes back for 3 red. So all told, we're gonna get 3 copies out of this spell. Out of this card, we're gonna get the first copy, and then we're gonna get 2 copies of something later. So for 5, so Wooburg, so we have to have extra red. So like this is why. So we want 2 islands and we want 3 mountains if we're getting to this point, because we'll spend Wooburg to cast a regular spell, and then we'll increasing vengeance and copy it. A copied Curse of the Cabal is very mean, where you can either make one player sack half their permanents and then sack half their permanents again, or you can make 2 different players sack their permanents. You want 2 Clone Legions, that's cool. 2 Dins of the Fire Herd, that's also cool. This card is just amazing in Jodah.
Yeah. Oh wow. This card is just this is the best copy. This is the best Reverberate, right? Like this is the best one because of the flashback, which is insane.
Well, the only slight difference with some of those cards is it's only spells
only
you
stuff
control.
You control, exactly.
Yeah, that is a significant drawback to some of those other copy spells,
Yeah.
but our sorceries are going to be, on average, better than our opponent's sorceries in this deck.
And these are, though, also, these are the decks where you are stacking this to be your own stuff. Like, sometimes you'll throw a Reverberate or a Fork into a deck. Like, I put them in mono red decks because they are counter spells.
Yep.
For counter spells, right?
Yep.
Which is like a fun thing. And then, obviously, once in a while, you might get something wacky off your own deck. But these are the ones you want in your own decks when you're casting crazy stuff like Clone Legion and Din of the Fire.
Oh my god! Like a tripled. I have. It's just tripling. Curse of the Cabal is so scary.
Ooh, tripling it. Oh man. Well, at least that's everyone. Like I'd kind of rather triple it than it's kind of better for you
share the wealth.
Yeah, to share the scorn. There's no wealth going on. You're not sharing any kind of scorn.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
What else is another utility card here?
I lost my place. Oh, there we go. Okay. Yep. Oh wow, this is fun. I kind of didn't expect to see this, but the Gitrog monster is in this deck. That's right. The big angry frog.
Yeah.
3 black-green for the legendary frog horde. It's a 6/6 with death touch. At the beginning of your upkeep, you sacrifice the Gitrog monster unless you sack a land.
So it's going to be a forest.
Yeah, so you may play an additional land on each of your turns also. And whenever 1 or more land cards are put into your graveyard from anywhere, draw a card.
So this card has the extra utility here is kind of hidden unless you have the big picture of the deck. So I'll fast forward for a second. The only non-basics, I'll remind you, are the ones that sack themselves to find basics. So those become card draw for the Gitrog monster. We are also able to play extra lands per turn because so many of the spells we cast put these basics into your hand. So that does not accelerate us, but this is a way to accelerate us where we get to put 2. Now we lose 1 on the next turn, but we get to play 2. But hopefully we'll have more ways to further get ahead of that with all that card draw, especially. And I don't get into it. This deck is doing a lot of stuff. This deck sometimes runs a couple of wheel effects just to fill up some graveyards, just to get some flashback spells in there, to get some things in the graveyard, which we'll probably cover in a second.
Neat. Yeah, I wouldn't expect to see the Gitrog monster in a deck that is mostly basics, to be honest.
Sure.
Just because it seems like if you get into a spot where you need to sack a land and you're taking away one of your colors because you might only have a couple of the, you know what I mean? Like you don't have 2 color lands, so you're losing a swamp. That's that might be your only black source, right? So obviously you're not going to choose to do that. So you got to do other things. So you're seems like you might be dwindling. But if you got ways to jump all land back, then you're laughing.
And also, the Gitrog monster, it is a May ability. The Gitrog monster is nice in that, you sacrifice the Gitrog monster unless you sacrifice a land.
Yes.
So
you don't have to sack the lands. You can just sack the Gitrog monster.
If you're in trouble, you get to, you don't have to worry. And here's another reason, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The Gitrog snuck in because this next category, we're running both of the land returners. I'm calling them. There's 2 that I know of now, and they're very recently printed. I hope they print more of them. World Shaper, 3 and a green, Merfolk Shaman 3/3. When it attacks, put the top 3 cards of your library into your graveyard. That's a Get Rog Monster thing, perhaps. We don't mind cards in the graveyard. And when World Shaper dies, put all land cards from your graveyard onto the battlefield tapped. So all of those sack lands that get more basics will get to get more basics with them. And any lands that went in from Gitrog or other wheels or mills, we just get those back on the battlefield as well. And once we're doing that, we're able to do a lot of Jodah stuff.
Yeah, and then you also got Splendid Reclamation in here, the sorcery that does the same thing.
I do.
3 and a green, return all land cards from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped.
Yep.
Solid.
Great. So there's another way we're going. So, but we still want, so as the Gitrog monster does, the Gitrog monster puts extra lands on the battlefield. We are also running Mina and Den Wildborn, 2 red-green for an elf ally. It's a 4/4. You may play an additional land on each of your turns. So this plus Gitrog means we're up to 3 lands per turn. We can pay red-green to return a land you control to its owner's hand to give target creature trample. That's not the most relevant. That will come into play if we clone Legion something massive, or for, it depends on what's going on.
Interesting.
Yep.
And then finally, for this section, we have Gear per Orrery.
Yeah.
4 generic for an artifact that says each player may play an additional land on each of their turns, and at the beginning of each player's upkeep, if that player has no cards in hand, that player draws 3 cards.
So if we have Gear per Orrery as well as, so we have the possibility of playing 4 lands per turn if all of these cards are out. If it's just Gear per Orrery, it's just 2 per turn. But this deck has an ability to empty its hand. It happens. Because we're playing multiple lands per turn, we almost never have lands in once we get rolling. And Jodah is able to dump out our very expensive things, and our cheap things will probably turn into lands which we can play anyway. So the Gear per Orrery, if it's out, we'll play to it, and we'll be drawing more cards that way. But it's in here just for extra land drops, and I suspect it will help us more than it will help most others.
Very interesting. Cool.
So, oh boy, that's sort of like the deck's main thing, but we do need a couple ways to protect ourselves. And so I've focused on cards that have the keywords Flash and Death Touch. I want to train my opponents to be fearful of attacking. For example, Winged Coatl, 1 green blue, Flash, Flying, Death Touch, 1/1.
Yep, just a little flash in, get in the way and kill them.
Yep.
Yeah, Winged Coatl, and you also got Ambush Viper. This is a little snake without wings. One and a green for a 2/1 flash Death Touch.
Great. I'm also running Stinkweed Imp, which is a flying Death Touch, technically. But the Dredge 5 is beneficial because we are running Gitrog Monster, and we have all those creatures that bring all the lands back from our graveyard to the battlefield. So we're always happy to dredge up a Stinkweed Imp.
It's not technically Death Touch. It is
not technically.
Essentially Death Touch, because it is only combat damage that it cares about.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, it's basically Death Touch. Basically the same thing. Cool.
Yeah. So that's sort of the gist of the deck. There's a lot of wheels going. I don't mean wheels. I mean dials. There's a lot of dials going on here, and I feel like this is the kind of deck that you can really tune to your preference, right? You can go even more dredgy and get more reanimator-y on this kind of thing if you wanted to. You could focus more on instants and sorceries and do more double casting with copy effects if you wanted to. We're putting big spells on the stack, so copying becomes better in this deck. I did not necessarily go that route. I tried to just open each door a little bit and just kind of show some of the possibilities. Can we jump? Can we insert a card? This is a audible here. Can you put up Cloven Casting?
Sure. Cloven?
Cloven Casting could be a surprising discovery, but it's an enchantment. You need to build around it, but I think it could be very powerful. So it's 5 blue-red, So Jodah can get it out for 5, or we can pay 7. Whenever you play a multicolored instant or sorcery, you may pay 1 generic. If you do, copy the spell. You may choose new targets. So we would want to brew up our Jodah to mostly have expensive multicolor spells so that we can copy them for free, not for free, for 1 with Cloven casting. And then I would want to also make most of my ramp and card draw multicolor. There's a lot of red-blue or green-blue card draw and ramp and things like that. So, if you wanted to, you could kind of go that route as well.
Interesting. I would say I would not worry too much about the ramp part of it, just because this thing itself costs 7. So like,
True.
You've probably you need a ramp to get to this. So then by the time you have Cloven casting out and you want to, and like maybe you have some ramp, it's like, well, it's not that big a deal if you get to copy it, right? It's like, who cares?
True.
You're already you're probably already at a lot of mana there.
I guess I was only thinking of one card in specific. Can you throw that one up too? Urban Evolution.
Oh yeah, I know this card.
Right? Because it also lets you play an additional card this turn, but you can draw 3 cards. So if you happened to have Cloven casting out, you pay 6 mana, either with Urban Evolution normally or with Jodah's help and the extra one anyway.
Yeah.
And you're drawing 6 cards and playing 2 additional lands, which seems like a fair deal.
Jodah just makes it harder to cast Urban Evolution.
It really does. It really does. But I have been in a situation where I wanted to do it with Jodah anyway. No, that's not true. I think there was a way where I was like, it seemed to make a difference because of tutoring up another blue source, so I could cast it the other way. I'm not sure.
I don't see how it could ever make sense to do that.
Yeah.
I
maybe thought myself into a corner with that one. I don't know.
Maybe it was something else, a different thing. Anyways. I like Urban Evolution, though. It's a fun card.
Yeah, it's a good card.
Yeah, cool.
Cool. Lots of ways to go with this. Very fun deck. Let's highlight some of the 3 stars in this brew and sort of in general. I tried to pick 3 stars that are probably good in no matter how you throw Jodah together. So Cast Through Time is going to be a star. Why don't you read this one?
Oh, yeah. Cast Through Time is 4 and 3 blue for an enchantment that says instant and sorcery spells you control have rebound.
Great. So Jodah puts it down for free, right?
It's kind of like
for free, for 5.
It's kind of like Cloven casting, but for all of the spells, and it's just that it's delayed.
Yeah.
You get it again. You gotta wait a turn.
Right.
But this is a cool card. I mean, this is killer in big instant and sorcery spells like decks like this. Like Cast Through Time is just a beating.
It's
so
one
great.
of the few enchantments. I didn't talk about it, but this deck also runs mostly. Well, I guess we'll talk about it. It comes up later in the show, so let's just keep going. We'll save that section later. I also like Take Possession very much. 5 blue for an enchantment. It has Split Second. I forget about this card a lot. Enchant permanent. Any permanent you control enchanted permanent with Split Second, so no one can sacrifice anything in response to it. I know Morph is like a secret way to get around Split Second, but almost pretty much you're safe to do this. And with Jodah, you can do it for 5 mana and you can control anything. One of the best things to do with this, let's not forget, is if an opponent gets a Planeswalker to its ultimate and just needs to untap and then activate it, you can take possession of that Planeswalker and ultimate it yourself.
Yeah, this is great for stealing commanders.
Yep. They can't sack it in response. They can't do anything.
The last time I saw this card play, you played it on my commander, I think.
Ooh.
And I was like, what, a mind control? Like, no big deal. And then it's like, oh, it has Split Second. Like, couldn't do anything about it. You feel so helpless.
You feel so helpless.
But yeah, this is definitely an underrated commander card. I don't see it very often. And I mean, probably because it's 7 mana, but being able to steal, like you just said, like a fully loyaltied up Planeswalker or someone's commander, like even just to get it off their board, like this is worth it. It's very tough to deal with.
You can't. The only way to protect this is with a counterspell.
Mm-hmm. No, you can't even. You can't counter.
Oh yeah, you can't counter it. Yeah, right. Like there's no. You
need enchantment destruction after the fact.
Yes,
that'll
yes,
do
you
it.
do. But then if that enchantment destruction isn't Split Second, I can sack your thing in response.
Yeah, I mean, you still, yeah, exactly. Right? Yes, yeah.
Good. That's star number 2.
Yeah, and Star number 1 is Conflux. 3 and Wooburg, so 8 altogether for a sorcery that says search your library for a white card, a blue card, a black card, a red card, and a green card. Reveal those cards, put them in your hand, and shuffle your library. Bam.
So here's where, like, it's going to cost Jodah 5. And so here's where we just get to do. So, can we talk about some magical Christmas land here?
Yeah.
But it's not that magical if you get Conflux, because it's just like, so getting Jodah to 10 mana, like 2 of every basic, is not difficult. It happens quite frequently. So then if you're able to do that, you spend 5 mana on Conflux, and your blue one is going to be an extra turn card. Maybe that I have the big Delve one, the one that has Delve.
Okay.
Karn's
Temporal Sundering or whatever is also floating around these days from Dominaria. Yeah.
Any blue extra turn spell. And so now you get to go again, and now you get to cast 2 spells. So now we get to do those doubles that we were talking about, where it's like, oh, do you want to do Army of the Damned and then Din of the Fire Herd? No problem, because you took both of those.
Yes.
You just get to plan out like your next crazy moves. It's very fun. It feels very good.
That's wild.
Yeah.
What's the okay? So this is, I thought Conflux was a different card. What's the card that is just Jodah's ability but on an enchantment?
Is it on enchantment or is it on an artifact?
I think it's on an enchantment. I think.
I know there's an artifact that does it in the Dragon's Precon.
Yeah, that's it's an artifact. Okay, maybe.
I think so.
I thought it was an enchantment for some reason. I tried to search for like you may pay and then like, but I don't know. Scryfall. I didn't have time to go look.
Yeah, it's Fist of Suns.
Fist of Suns.
Yeah, it's the Infinity Gauntlet.
Okay, it is an artifact, of course. Right, this is Infinity Gauntlet. Yeah, it only costs 3, but then it has Jodah's ability where you may pay Wooburg rather than pay the mana cost for spells that you cast. Like, I think this is worth putting. Like, you want that redundancy, right? Like, this was probably worth throwing in a Jodah in all the Jodah decks.
Yeah, you know what? I didn't put it in. I really should. I kind of spread myself thin here with doing a lot of things at once. You're going to focus in like the way you like to, and I think that's a good way to do it.
Yeah, like this will just give you that second source of being able to do that. So if someone handles your commander enough, you can just plop down a Fist of Suns, and all of a sudden now they need a whole different kind of removal to get rid of that. And
then also from Amonkhet, one non-basic that you might want to consider if you because it is indestructible, is Cascading Cataracts. Now that we're on the subject, this should probably go in too. It's indestructible, it adds colorless, or you pay 5 generic and add 5 in any combination, aka Wooburg.
Wooburg, yeah, absolutely, yes. This is a must include in any Jodah deck, I would say.
I think so too.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, great. Did you have any surprises or discoveries? It seemed like we've already gone through a couple.
Grinning Totem. 4 generic for an artifact. And it has this ability. 2, tap, sacrifice Grinning Totem. Search target opponent's library for a card. I'll read the Oracle text, sorry.
Yeah, read the Oracle text. Yeah.
2, tap, sacrifice Grinning Totem. Search target opponent's library for a card and exile it. Any card. Then that player shuffles his or her library. Until the beginning of your next upkeep, you may play that card. At the beginning of your next upkeep, if you haven't played it, put it into the graveyard. It doesn't let us cast... It doesn't let us change the casting cost. It doesn't let us cheap out. In a non-5 color deck, you have to be able to pay for it. But Jodah, if you have 5 mana up, you get to pay 5 for anything in any opponent's deck. Just point this at an opponent. Now, you can't do it on their end step because at your next upkeep, it goes back into the graveyard. So you have to spend the 2 on your main phase and then 5 Jodah mana and cast anything you found from their deck.
I love that it's anything.
Anything. If you need a land, you can do that. You can.
It does say play. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can play that card. It's like bribery, but for not just for creatures, right? Like it's for anything. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. That's
an interesting new little thing. Yeah, it's. You know what? This is really neat in like an artifact recursion deck. Like if you can recur this thing and keep pulling out even if it is just like you said, lands, pulling out other artifacts, right? Because they'll be colorless. Obviously, you
Sure.
can cast
And
those. That's
consider
really neat.
this. Consider this in any deck that runs blue as a form of protection. Because if your opponent tries something, I bet you can find a player where you can go through their deck, find a counter spell, and then counter the thing that they're doing right now.
Very, very interesting. I mean, you need to also be running blue.
True. That's what I'm saying. If you're running a blue deck and you like to counter things, then
You probably
this, But not just counter spells. Like you have to do a little bit of thinking, but you get to like, let's assume it's like, well, I bet you have a Wrath here. So, and I need to Wrath right now, so I'm going to look for a Wrath from your deck. There's a chance you're wrong about that, but you can usually make a pretty good guess that, like, you can assume everyone's going to have utility of some sort, and based on the colors and commander, you can find your most likely candidate. And that's if you don't know the decks. If we're playing in your meta where you know all the decks, you're like, I know what you got in here, and I know exactly what I'm going for.
I mean, obviously, this shines in a 5-color deck, too, which is like,
yes,
because you can cast anything then. I like it. That's really cool.
I like this card.
Yeah, me too.
It's a gumball.
Yeah, neat. All right. Okay. So it's budget report time, but before that, we got to talk about Wizard's Tower real quick.
WT,
the Wizard Tower. Wizardtower.com. Check it out. Our coupon code is still
I love Brews.
I love Brews until
June.
June, right? Okay.
In June, it's going to change. Depending when you're listening to this, it might have already changed. If it's June, it's going to change to
Summer of Brews.
Summer of Brews.
That's right. It's the Summer of Brews this summer because we'll be brewing for the show. We'll be brewing for our other show. There's going to be all kinds of brewing. So this officially will be the Summer of Brews.
Yeah.
That's fun. Like, what a big event. We should make it the event. It's the Summer of Brews, and we can all bring brews to GP Vegas and things like that.
Yes.
GP Toronto's coming up, too. I mean,
oh, boy.
It's not a Wizard Tower event, but that's coming up. That's going to be fun. But Wizard Tower, yeah, go check them out. WizardTower.com. Get that free shipping in Canada. Get those singles. Use our coupon code because that lets the gang over there know that our listeners are going and buying stuff from Wizard Tower.
Although, if you're an American listener, I'll encourage you to just give it a look anyway, because just imagine the exchange rate. See if that it's because like their prices are comparable to American stores often for cards that you're where your money's worth more.
They definitely are. So yeah, I'll go check them out. WizardTower.com.
Cool.
All right, now it's time for the budget report.
This is where we take all of the cards, and no matter how much they cost, we make them cost $5.
$5. Oh man, every card is too expensive.
So, when you do an almost exclusively non-budget mana base, you got a little bit more room for cards. But this deck came in at $49.41.
Okay.
Most expensive card, I do like this one. It That Betrays. It's a 12 generic Eldrazi with Annihilator 2, and here's a fun ability. Whenever an opponent sacrifices a non-token permanent, put that card onto the battlefield under your control. So, yeah. Annihilator, it works very good with Annihilator, because when you attack with it, anything that they annihilate goes back to you.
Yeah.
And let's remember that Curse of the Cabal makes a player sacrifice half of their permanents.
Jeez. And Din of the Fireherd makes them sacrifice creatures and lands.
And lands, yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
wow. Yeah, it betrays.
It's a $4 card.
It's a $4 card, but it's a very powerful effect. And in these decks that cheat mana costs, they're really, really great. And one thing that Jodah has over a deck like Mael or something like that is that, like, for example, when I played Mael the other day, and I had this card in my hand, and I was like, oh, God. No thanks. Because you never want it in your hand in that deck. But in Jodah, that's exactly where you want it. So
yeah,
it makes it a little easier. It's great.
Yeah.
It betrays the second most expensive card is Ruination. 3 and a red to destroy all non-basic lands. Sean, what are you doing?
We don't run any.
Yeah, we don't run any in our 5-color deck. So usually this punishes a 5-color deck. That's exactly what this card does. And for some reason, in this 5-color deck, we're running Ruination.
Because it's going to help us more. We're not going to get touched by it.
I mean, I've thought about cards like this, and often, yeah, it often does punish expensive mana bases. It punishes greedy mana bases, 4 or 5 colors, that sort of thing. In our meta, though, personally, in our meta, I've noticed that these cards wouldn't be very good.
They wouldn't punish a lot.
No,
they would kill maybe like 30% of someone's land, something like that.
I feel like you'd hit like 2 or 3 lands off of Ruination.
Now, it's philosophically, it's an interesting point. I know that Sean Watson over at Commanderin this is sort of his idea that I think about sometimes. It's that because we mostly agree about land destruction or whatever, I mean, I'm not talking about Armageddon, I'm just talking about Ruination, but like, shouldn't there be a penalty for running more colors? The penalty should be it's harder to cast your stuff. But when we have access to every dual and triple and 5 color land ever printed, we can often put together mana bases, especially if we have a higher budget, where we never have a hard time casting anything. Literally, like we can play as many colors as we want without fear of casting restrictions. So then it's just kind of just like, well, Ruination reminds us that there still is penalty for that.
I think that it's fine to run this type of card. For sure. I also think what's the green one? A Wave of Vitriol.
Yes.
That one is
ultimately fair.
Yeah, that one is quite fair because it lets you go get basics to replace the non-basic ones, right?
Sure.
But
it makes you show your greed.
Exactly. Like you. Yeah, I'm you should. It absolutely shows a 5 color deck. It's like, well, I don't have any basics.
It's like, well,
it's like I gave you an out. You could have had basics. You could have. You
were too greedy.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
You flew too close to the sun, and now your wings melted.
Mm-hmm. So I totally am fine and agree with putting those types of cards in decks to punish people who make very expensive mana bases and are very, very greedy.
But the card's almost $4, so I guess people agree.
Yeah, exactly.
And the third most expensive card is Cast Through Time. We talked about this. It gives all your instants and sorceries rebound.
Yeah, very good card.
Definitely stays.
Yeah, big fun commander card. Keep it in. What about the old out of budget section? What are some cards that are definitely out of our budget, but really great in this deck specifically?
So one that was so fun to tutor up with Conflux and then just make the chain go on is Time Stretch. It's 8 blue for a sorcery. Target player takes 2 extra turns. This is over $10 now. This is like $12, $13. But if you are able to cast Conflux and Time Stretch, and then you can cast your white and green and black and red spell every other turn, in all of those turns. So you can it's basically fully casting a Conflux with all of the fixins.
Amazing. All the fixins. This is one you would probably want to break the bank for, it seems like.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely. Yeah, this just it's very explosive, especially when you can refill your hand with so many crazy cards.
Next is Fracturing Gust.
Yeah.
2 and 3 Selesnya hybrid. Destroy all artifacts and enchantments, and then you gain 2 life for each permanent destroyed this way.
I didn't go into it, but we have a lot of effects that destroy all artifacts and all enchantments because we run so few. I think Cast Through Time is maybe the only enchantment we actually run. But we don't use a lot of mana rocks either. So this is another way to slow other players down with all of our artifact destruction, which I didn't go into. But I just don't understand why this one's so expensive. I think it's a print issue. This one's like $8.
Lorwyn.
Yeah, Lorwyn.
Or Shadowmoor, rather, this one specifically. But from that block, those cards really haven't seen very many reprints. This one actually was reprinted in a From the Vault Annihilation, but that doesn't count.
Yeah, I mean, getting the life back is a big upside. And it is hybrid and it is instant. This card does have a lot of things going for it. It is definitely quite desirable. Combine that with the low print run, I guess that's why it's an $8 card.
Yep.
And then another card that's very expensive. If we're hating on non-basics, might as well run Blood Moon if you got one. $20. All non-basic lands are mountains.
Speaking of reprints, this one's had quite a few.
Yeah, and still, it's still so expensive.
Still $20 in and around there, depending on the version, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you're running all basics, Blood Moon's fine. This does turn off your fetch non-basics though.
This is true. Yes, this is true.
but it just makes them into mountains. So hopefully you've got some good red stuff to cast.
We do.
We do. Like, it doesn't make them not lands. That's the thing. It's like, okay,
Right.
well, it's not the end of the world, actually. It's like you draw an Evolving Wilds later after you have your Blood Moon out. It's like, well, I just drew a mountain. No big deal.
Yeah. Oh,
Ooh,
well, there you go.
okay.
That's it. That's the deck. That's everything.
My
Out of budget,
allergies-
in budget.
Yeah, my allergies are kicking in now. I'm sure people can hear the, like, I felt like I've been about to sneeze for the last, like, 10 minutes. It's really brutal.
Well, I wish you a happy sneeze. Look at the sun, they say, right?
Oh, man, it's happening. Anyways. Yeah, this is, I mean, what else can you say about this crazy 5-color deck, this Jodah? Like, this is an interesting brew of it for sure. This is kind of not even, like, there's some aspects of this deck that I didn't expect to see when you said you were doing brewing up a Jodah deck.
Yeah, I want to hear your tweets. I want to hear from you guys. What things did you do with Jodah beyond just like, I cast big things? Because of course you cast big things. But like, what flavor of big things? Do you have a theme around it? I would love to hear what y'all are doing with your Jodahs out there. Yeah, let's share some tips.
Yeah, I was saying, go ahead.
Yeah, and just to reiterate, one of the reasons that Jodah does take a while to get going. Jodah is a bit fragile, which is one of the reasons I'm hating on non-basics and artifacts to slow our opponents down so that we can compete on that axis.
Yeah, I think the best, like, counter strategy to Jodah is to just kill Jodah.
Oh yeah, once you kill Jodah, like, I mean, hopefully we're ramping enough that we can still cast our things the hard way. That is doable. I do it sometimes, but yeah, without Jodah, this deck crumples quite hard.
It kind of reminds me of Riku in that in Riku decks, you have all these great interactions when you have your commander out, but you rely so heavy on them because you want to get the bonus, right? Like,
right.
You really you want Riku out, and it's like, oh, even the ramp spell, I want to copy it, like.
So you don't want to ramp early.
Exactly, but like,
Yeah.
of course you should, and then that'll let you cast Riku. But if someone removes Riku, you're like, oh man, like, now it costs so much more. Now you got to spend that whole turn getting him back before you can even, like, do it. Anyways, I have a question though. So
Okay.
let's say you're not running it in the deck, but let's say you had Fist of Suns.
Yes.
You had Jodah's ability.
Yes.
And then and then let's say we had Jodah in the command zone with 2 commander taxes on him, so he costs 4 more.
Right.
Can you pay 5 mana and, like, skip the commander tax?
No, because that is an additional cost.
Okay.
You must pay additional costs.
So so you would never do that then.
No,
Okay, makes sense.
It would always cost you more that way.
Right. Okay. Good to know. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
That's my question answered. Yeah, well, there you have it. Jodah. It's Archmage.
Arc or Archmage.
I'm going to say Arch. Sean's going to say Arch. And
Sure.
then we'll say that there's 2 accepted versions of it.
That's what we'll say.
Because I bet you that's probably actually what it is. Because also, first of all, it's not a real word. Let's just get that right out there.
Yeah, not
Right?
a real word.
Not even a real word. I
Yeah.
did try looking it up, and it for sure is not. Anyways, that's the show. Come back, check us out for Battle of the Brews when it's going to launch. That'll be in the coming months or so.
We're still ironing down dates because of the organization involved, but as soon as we know the date, we will be on it hard.
Yeah, absolutely. You'll be the first to know about it. Stick around for a Brews News segment right after this. And we will see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Brews News. I'm Andy.
And I'm Sean. This week, a very special interview with a crew member of the Weatherlight. Over to you, Sean, on the Weatherlight. Thank you, Sean. I'm here on the Weatherlight, and I have found a crew member who was willing to talk to us. Hi, you work here on the Weatherlight.
Yep.
What's your name?
Oh, well, my name is Hank. The janitor. This swab.
Hank, the janitor, legendary creature?
Well, I mean, not specifically legendary in the traditional sense of the word, but a legendary in my own right, I suppose you could say.
Okay, but like, are you like a famous Weatherlight crew? Like, are there other Hanks or something? Like, can I talk to? Do you know like one of the Sissays?
Oh, I don't interact much with those folks. Those guys are up top, top of the deck there, doing all the big flashy work. I just make sure the poop deck here is swabbed nice and good.
Oh yeah, we're on the poop deck, are we? I'm not gonna make that joke, but I wonder if you could like. Can you get in with one of the real legendaries? Can you get me an interview with like a real legendary?
So you came to me to get an interview from someone else? Is that what happened here?
Well, I just don't know. I don't know how to find my way around here. I'm new here on the Weatherlight.
I'd say you got yourself an interview. Hank, your boy Hank is right here, ready to answer all your questions about poop.
Okay, I was hoping to ask more questions about the Weatherlight itself, not just poop.
Well, I mean, we have all the amenities here. We have the deck that you poop on there, and I clean it up with this.
Now, Hank, we have ships where I'm from, and the poop deck isn't where you poop.
What?
No, the poop deck is something else. I think that's just a name. I don't actually know the function of it, but there's a special place where you go to the bathroom. It's called a toilet.
Well, I mean, I know about the toilet. I just thought on boats you just kind of go down a few floors and let it rip.
Nope, that's not how it works. Hank, I think I think
Joira told me this. The captain herself. This is from on high. This is from the top of the ladder here. This is a direct order. I can't disobey a direct order. I got to let people relieve themselves on this here deck.
Is that Slimefoot? Is Slimefoot doing this?
Well, he told me that's what the captain said. I mean,
anyway, why don't you hook me up with Slimefoot and I'll interview him? He's a legendary fungus.
You know they should call him.
No, we can't say that. No, Hank, no.
What do you think that slime's made up of, huh? He lives here on this deck. What do you think his foot's all covered in?
But
I'm just saying.
Okay. Well, anyway, it's nice to meet you as a legendary creature.
I don't have the fancy border, and there's another one of me. But I am a bit legendary, yes. People know me, or the other one that has the same name and does the same stuff as me. But you're right, I am legendary, sort of. Not really, but yes.
Wait a minute. Are you a token creature? Am I talking to a token?
Well, just because I'm not a card doesn't mean I'm just a token. You know, tokens can be legendary.
Yes, that's true. Tokens can be legendary, but if you're not a card or a legendary, I kind of think we might not be able to use this footage.
Ashaya, the Awoken. What about that wolf? That one wolf. Tolden smear wolf blood. That's something. Anyways.
You know...
I know my tokens.
Yeah, I guess as a token. So, okay, then... This just in, a live interview with a token creature. Where do you go if they bet you get bounced?
If I get what?
You know, if you get sent back to the hand or if you change zones, what happens to you exactly?
Oh, no one knows. No one knows what lies beyond the pale. We only know what lies in this pail, and it's poo.
Okay, well, that's enough poo for now. Back to you, Sean and Andy, in the studio.
Hey, is this going to be on TV here, or how does this work?
YouTube.
What?
YouTube.
What tube?
YouTube?
YouTube.
Back to you guys.
Oh, you stepped in some.
I know. Thank you, Sean. What an interesting interview. I learned a lot about what it means to be legendary.
And what it means to just be working on a boat.
Or a ship. An airship?
I mean, it's kind of a boat.
It's
an airboat.
Airboat. All gas is also a fluid. It's true.
Anyways. Well, we're tapped out, so we'll pass the turn over to you. Good night.
Good night.
thunder, chasing the wind, voices pulling from the center of the earth again.
That sounds familiar. Is that who sings that?
I wrote that. That's my song about the weatherlight called Rolling Thunder.
If you want to contact us, I'm at Sean Tabaris.
And I'm at Andy Hullbone.
Send us an email at commandersbrew@gmail.com.
You can find out when we go live on Twitch if you follow us at twitch.tv.
And if you care to support us on Patreon, check us out at patreon.com.
And you can find our deck list on tappedout.net.
And if we forgot anything, commandersbrew.com.